Hey peeps, welcome back to another video. This time I'm here with a review of these new Copic Acrea paint pens. I actually got these back in October when my partner and I went to Japan, and we got a basic set and then some individual ones. At the time, they weren't out in the US, but I believe they're available here now. In fact, I've seen listings of them for Blick and also jet pens. So they're available here now, and here are some of the individual markers we got. And I wanted to test how they are against Copic's alcohol markers. So here's some facts about them. They come in 24 colors so far. They're very vibrant. They're not refillable like other paint markers. They just aren't refillable. I actually don't know if other paint markers you can't refill. I don't really have that many Posca pens. And also, like any other paint marker, you can draw on different surfaces like glass and metal, but personally, since the nib is fine, like a 0.8 millimeter, I think they said it was, it's better for detailing rather than larger surface areas. At that point, just use a brand that has larger nibs or regular acrylic paint. They come in different sets of 6 I saw listed. So they come in like natural colors, vibrant colors, maybe even like pastel colors. So if you want those sets, you can get them individually. They are also waterproof, odorless, and non-toxic. So here you're going to see me swatch out these colors, and I find them to be I don't know why, but I find Copic Acrea's colors to be easier on the eyes than Posca. I like the level of saturation it gives, and the colors, while not as big a selection as Posca yet, I know many of the colors are actually similar to Posca line. I think they've got the colors down to a science, giving their expansive options in colors for alcohol markers. So I think the choice of colors are a little bit more deliberate and a little bit more a little different, which I like, and a little milder or easier on the eyes. They're not so stark, but they are very saturated and juicy, which is great. Now, I've seen these available on sites like Blick. The cost per marker, I've seen them go for about $3.50 in US dollars, $3.50 to $4.50 US dollars. The sets of 6 at the time of this recording are about $20. Against Posca's fine tip option, which I believe their smallest nib is 0.7, which is extra fine. The Posca pens can run you about $2.50 to $3 for those smaller tips. So it's up to you to decide whether it's worth it to pick up a few of these. I think that the unique color options that Posca doesn't carry might be worth it to pick up individually if you'll use those, if you know you'll use those. But I also find jet pens to be one of the more expensive places to get them in the US though, because I've seen that their individual markers go for like $4.50 and then the sets of 6 go for $24 as opposed to $20 at the time of this recording. So just be on the lookout for maybe cheaper options. Don't buy off of Amazon if you can help it, just off of principle, but also they don't also have the lowest prices either. So yeah, I find these to be really nice, and it's got a really nice selection, a really tight selection, a more deliberate selection of colors. I can't speak for the availability for other countries outside of the US and Japan, of course, where Copic is based. So here I'm testing these. You can see I'm swatching out the gold here. Gave me a little bit of trouble, and I think that's because it's metallic, which is I think normal for a lot of metallic paint pens to be a little bit slower. But once you have the ink flowing, it actually feels like it flows. It doesn't skip. I like the feel of these markers overall. They're actually a matte white body rather than the glossy bodies of the alcohol markers, and I think I honestly prefer the matte feel as opposed to the glossier feel, just as a personal preference. And I kind of wished that their alcohol marker line had this same kind of matte surface, because I feel like it grips better, and I just like the texture of it. Not that I use Copic markers as often as my partner does, but again, it's personal preference. And also, since you see, I'm in my cream colored page, you could see the gold kind of shimmering, so that's good. It's not my favorite shade of gold, honestly. I don't like the greenish hue of most gold tinted metallics, but it came out nice and you could see the shimmer, so that's good. Here I'm testing the acrylic paint pens out on illustration of some eyes I did some time ago. I wanted to try these out with the Copic markers, so you're not going to see me test these against Posca pens or anything like that. And this is not like a this brand versus that brand sort of thing. It's just demonstrating how they work with each other within the same brand. Not that I think it actually matters if you mix brands. So if you do that, I think that might be fine. So as you're probably aware, Copics are alcohol-based markers, and as you work with them, unless you have specific thick paper for it, you can expect them to bleed through most papers. So it'll bleed through the page, it's just the nature of these markers. And they blend well when used correctly, and I find they're better suited to smaller pieces of art than larger surface areas, so that's why I'm kind of working with these smaller pieces of art here. These are the eyes of my different characters, so I believe it's Damokos at the very top that I'm coloring right now, and then Dio, and then Atlas, and then at the very bottom is Apollo. The Copic Acreas are, like I said, a 0.8 millimeter bullet nib, so they'll be, not bullet nib, the nib is plastic and it's got a bit of give to it, so they'll be best suited to detailing. You can get some line variation with different pressures, but I wouldn't go too hard with these. They're opaque and they flow very well for this size of nib. I find that fine nibs on other brands tend to skip, especially for metallics. But I'm not having that problem here, at least not out of the box. They work quite well with the markers when I want to punch up an area or define a line in an area. And since these are not alcohol-based markers, they actually don't bleed. Because markers have a tendency to bleed past your line, and I'm not very skilled with these. Like I said, I don't actually use Copic alcohol markers a whole lot. I prefer watercolor. But they work quite well with the markers when I want to punch up an area or add some shine to the eyes as seen here. And as you can see, I'm doing like kind of the eyelash line, and I'm doing it in different colors, and you can see the vibrancy in the different lines. There's not much in the way of color blending. The colors tend to sit on top of each other like most paint pens and paint markers, but you can get that sort of like nice transition from one line to another, and I find it really nice. It's a good feel. The lines are crisp and true, and more importantly, the tip isn't scratchy against the paper. I cannot stand that feel. Let me know in the comments if you guys are the same way, or if you don't really mind the scratchiness of a nib, but you don't have that here, unless you're trying for it, and I'm relatively light-handed with markers and pen, so there's no scratchiness to it, which I absolutely love. So as I'm adding the color to these, there's a certain order that I like to go in. I like to actually lay down the alcohol marker first and then go over whatever areas in the opaque Copic Acrea, but actually the Copic Acrea does not move after it is laid down, so there's actually no real issue of it smearing after you've laid the alcohol marker down and you want to lay more alcohol marker down. As long as it's dry, it doesn't tend to smudge or move, so that's good. Because I know some inks, you can't lay them down before you lay down alcohol markers. Alcohol markers are a tricky medium. See, I'm even blending different brands here. Like, I don't really even care, but this paper is not actually optimal for blending out marker, and I'm also just not very good at it. But I've got like pro markers here. I'm like using a Copic Acrea. I know I said that I would just use like one brand, but honestly, you can mix brands, and if you have like a cheaper brand of alcohol marker, you can pretty much blend it and like mix it with other brands. So don't feel like you're so beholden to one brand, because if one brand works better than another, then use it. So Dio's eyes are this sort of really fresh green color, and I just adored the blues that went against the eyelashes and the waterline. I just love the way that the blues like sat with the green. Like I said, these are really good pigments, and they flow very, very well. I didn't have any trouble at all, like sort of punching these up and coloring them in, so. You know, I actually don't do too many art supply reviews because I don't know, I just don't want to hoard art supplies that I won't use after. But I do like to try new things. So let me know in the comments if you guys are interested in seeing any kind of art supply review. I have a lot of watercolors, and I have paper and nibs and pens and different kinds of inks, but I don't really like to get too many new things just for the sake of reviewing it and then never using it again. So just let me know in the comments below if there's anything you're interested in me reviewing. I will try to be objective, but I'm also just going to inject my own opinion of these things in. So my general opinion of the Copic Acrea is that it's actually not all that different from your Posca or your Molodol, I believe they're called. They're actually not all that different, but what I do like about them is that they seem to be very reliable in terms of ink flow and in terms of pigmentation. I really do like the way that they dry. I like the way that the quality of the ink is. I not really that crazy about the price of the individual markers. Like I said, if you're going to get them here in the US, I would suggest you get the colors that you know you're going to use or that you like. But other than that, I do like these markers a whole lot. I'm glad that I got to try them, and I will be using them for, you know, detailing different things. So yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on it. This is Copic's first foray into paint pens, so it's interesting to see how they're going about it. The pens themselves are rather small, so I don't anticipate a lot of capacity for the ink in these pens. I wonder if they'll be coming out with other sizes, and if this is a bit of a test marketing before they expand into more nibs, sizes, and color options. But overall, I think they're starting off on the right foot. I do like that, even though I did say I did complain a little bit about the price. I do think that they are not they're definitely not as expensive as the alcohol markers, which I appreciate. They're a little bit closer to what you would expect a paint pen to cost. But they are a little bit more expensive, I suspect, because they are Copic. But they aren't as steep a price point as their markers, which you can also find decent alternatives for. So it's all down to preference on whether or not you want to try these out. Generally, I like these, and overall, I like the way that they came out, the test of illustration of these. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, or if you're considering buying these, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.